You're the one who brought the huge plastic cups. You could fit a gallon in one of those, said Evan. Besides, I wasn't going to be chintzy. They're paying a whole half a buck for it. They deserve a full cup. And anyway, we can just go home and make more. My mom has cans of lemonade in the freezer. So go home and make more, said Scott. Oh, yes, your majesty. Oh, high commander, your infinitiveness. Why don't you go make it? 'Cause I'm chillin', said Scott, leaning back in his chair with a stupid grin on his face. Evan knew he was just joking, but this was exactly why he didn't like Scott. He was always thinking of himself, always looking for some way to come out on top. If they were playing knockout, Scott always came up with a new rule that helped him win. If they were doing an assignment together, Scott always figured out how to divide it so he had less work to do. The kid was a weasel, no two ways about it. But everyone else was out of town. Evan didn't want to spend the day alone, and Jesse was on his poop list, as Mom called it, when the dog did something he wasn't supposed to do. Evan might never play with Jesse again. Evan crossed the street and went into the house. He was surprised to find that there were no more cans of lemonade in the freezer. Wow, there'd been so many this morning. Luckily, there was a can of grape juice in the freezer and a bottle of ginger ale in the fridge. It'll work, he thought. People just want a cold drink. They don't care if it's lemonade. He mixed up the grape juice at the sink. The fruit flies were more out of control than ever, thanks to the lemonade the boys had dribbled on the countertop. Evan swatted a couple more, but most of them drifted out of his reach and settled on the fruit bowl. He wished his mother believed in chemical warfare, but for Mrs. Tretzky it was all natural or nothing, usually nothing. When he went back outside to the lemonade stand, Evan noticed that the last pitcher was turned upside down on the cooler. "Aw, come on, Scott," he said. "What? It was hot, and you said we could always make more." "Yeah, well, we didn't have as much in the house as I thought. I've got grape juice and ginger ale." "I hate ginger ale," Scott said. "I wouldn't give you a penny for it." It turned out that a lot of people felt the same way. Business was definitely slower. The day got hotter. The sun beat down on them so ferociously that it was easy to imagine the sidewalk cracking open and swallowing them whole. Fanning himself, Evan asked, How much money do you really think we could make?" "I don't know," said Scott, pushing his baseball cap down over his eyes. "I mean, on a hot day like this," Evan said, silently adding the words, or tomorrow. "If we sold 8 pitchers of lemonade, what do you think we'd each make?" 8 pitchers? I don't know. Scott shook his head. The baseball-capped face wagged back and forth. "Too hot for math. And it's summer." Evan pulled the red pen out of his pocket and started to write on the palm of his hand. 8 times 50? Divided by 2? That didn't seem right. Jessie would know. She'd do that math in a second. Evan capped the pen and jammed it into his pocket. "But I bet it's a lot," said Evan. "I bet on a hot day like this we could actually make some real money in the lemonade business." "Yeah," said Scott. "Then we'd be rich, and I'd get an Xbox, the new one, with the dual controls." "I'd get an iPod," said Evan. He'd been saving for one for over a year, but every time he had some money put away, well, it just disappeared, like the $10 from Grandma. She'd even written in her card, "Here's a little something to help you get that music thing you want." But the money was gone. He treated Paul and Ryan to slices of pizza at Townhouse. It had been fun. That would be so great to listen to music whenever I want, said Evan. "I could tune you out," he added in his own head. They sat in silence, feeling the heat suck away every bit of their energy. Evan was hatching a plan. The heat wave was supposed to last at least 5 days. If he and a friend, not Scott, set up a lemonade stand every day for 5 days, he'd definitely have enough to buy an iPod. He'd imagined himself wearing it as he walked to school, wearing it on the playground. "Hey, Megan. Yeah, it's my iPod. Sweet, huh?" Wearing it to class when the teacher droned on about fractions and percents. "Nah, but it would be so cool. At least there would be one thing that didn't totally stink about going back to school." After 2 hours, they decided to call it quits. Sales had dropped off fast and then stopped altogether. Hey, did you notice something? Asked Evan, stacking the chairs. What? Said Scott. When we started the stand, most of our business came from that direction. He pointed down the street toward the curve in the road. But after an hour, not one person who walked past us from that direction bought a cup. Not one. They all said, no thanks, and kept on walking. Why do you think? Dunno, said Scott. Boy, you're a real go-getter, said Evan. You know that? Scott socked him in the chest, but Evan defended and knocked Scott's cap off. While Scott was scrambling for his hat, Evan said, just hang here for a minute, okay? And set off down the street. As soon as he rounded the curve, he knew why business had fallen off so badly. There was Jessie and Megan Moriarty from his class. They were standing inside a wooden booth, and their sign said it all. By the looks of it, their business was booming. Evan watched as Jessie accepted a fistful of dollar bills from a mother surrounded by kids. At that moment, Jessie looked up and saw him. Evan had a weird feeling, like he'd been caught cheating on a test. He wanted to run and hide somewhere. Instead, he froze. What would Jessie do? Evan couldn't believe it. She sneered at him. She cocked her head to the side and gave him this little, I'm so much better than you smile. And then she waved the money in her hand at him. She waved it, as if to say, look how much we've made selling lemonade. Bet you can't beat that. Evan turned on his heel and walked away. Behind him, he could hear Megan Moriarty laughing at him, clear as a bell.